Hi, it's Jennifer Clare of Thought Matters. I'm just going to lean in close and let you know I've got something to share. I've got a secret. At least that's what it means in Britain. You tap your nose 2 or 3 times. It means I've got a secret or I'm keeping a secret. In Italy, it's a little bit different. And this means watch out. There's a little bit of fear around that, which I'll get to later in this little video. And in France, this means, ooh, there's something smelly or off about this situation, which makes sense because it's our nose. We smell everything through our noses. So in this video, I'm just going to talk briefly about some context around the nose, and then we're going to do a very brief clearing of the associations that we have with certain smells, with certain memories, just clean up the associations we have and allow the nose to upgrade and bring in even more beautiful and pleasant smells to our lives. Okay, game. So I collect words and phrases. I just love language. I think it's great. And I love how you can have your nose up in the air and be a stuck-up person. You can say, ooh, the nose knows. You can say that somebody's sticking their nose in where it doesn't belong. Or my particular favorite one is an Australian version of that, where somebody who is nosy is a sticky beak, because they're really sticking their beak right in there. We have all these associations with the nose, and interestingly, in a lot of African lore, that comes from the idea that the nose here is the connection between your inside world and the outside world. And so in some ways, it's also why we say bless you when somebody sneezes. It's a fear that maybe part of their soul has escaped out through their nose, and you want to make sure it gets back inside again. I mean, isn't that sweet? Animals are very attuned to noses. If you watch any animals getting together, they will often breathe on each other when they first meet. Okay, dogs go for the butt, but they will also go for the nose. And that's just to get an olfactory packet of information about the other being. Horses do this in particular. They will kind of snuffle and breathe on you in a way to share information, because we do share information. Our noses are required for our breathing, and the function there is that they warm and moisturize and cleanse and filter the air before it goes back into the body. They're also important as a sort of connecting point for your lymph system, so that excess lymph can be expelled through the sinuses. And most importantly, I think we smell emotions in one another. You know, there's all the stuff about pheromones and how, you know, certain people will smell more sexually arousing to you if they're a good match, I guess, emotionally, genetically, who knows? It's an animal aspect of ourselves. We don't know everything about it. So we have pheromones, but we also definitely smell fear in somebody else. And we smell disdain and disgust in other people as well. And interestingly, if you smell fear in somebody else, your face will suddenly look scared. If you smell disgust on somebody else, your face will start to reflect that. We have all this shared information that's going on just through smell, just through our noses. Our smells remind us of our pasts. So Proust wrote a whole book about the smell of the pastry madeleines. Actually, I had a madeleine recently, and I don't think it was all that nice. But, you know, that was somebody else's memory, so it doesn't matter. It could be the smell of lemongrass, or smell of bread baking, the smell of coffee percolating, the smell of baked goods. Those are all things that are used in selling houses, because just walking into those aromas automatically makes us feel at home. We feel comforted, we feel fed and nurtured, and that's a psychological thing that makes us want to buy that experience again. And then there's a lot of smells that we smell that are really, really quite horrific. We smell dead bodies, whether that's a dead rat or dead worm, and we recoil from that smell. It's a physiological reaction saying, "Oh, that's not for you." And we do it with a lot of plants as well, whether we're aware of it nowadays or not. But back when we were hunter-gatherers, it was essential that we knew that what we were eating was safe. And so our noses became very attuned to this is safe, this is not, this is good, this is not. And we still do that with everything that we're putting up our noses, literally. So I've been doing a lot of clearing of this sort of sensory organs, and I'm going to share some stuff in the comments to this video because there's other meditations available. But with this nose one, I'd like you just to take a moment to clear some stuff if you want to. Of course, you don't have to. You can always come back to this at another time. I don't mind. I'm not going to get my nose out of joint over it. Anyway, what I want you to do is just be aware of your nose. I'm not going to mask my mouth in case there are people lip reading this. But being aware of your nose, just take a couple of really good deep breaths. Feeling that air going into your nose, feel how it goes all the way through your head as a result. And then as you breathe out, again, breathing out through the nose this time. Good, and again, just breathing in. And breathing out. You may wish to close your eyes for this next part because we're going to be accessing some information from your past and clearing it. So I'd like you just to think about the times in your life when you smelled unpleasant things. Maybe it's rotting garbage or a skunk or a dead animal or somebody's smelly trainers or an armpit, coffee and cigarette breath. Whatever that thing is, you have markers in your timeline of your memories of times when you have smelled bad things. There's nothing inherently wrong with smelling bad things, but some of those associations may have negative connections to them. So for example, when I think about coffee and cigarette breath, I had a teacher at university who used to pull all-nighters and then rock up to his class. He just reeked. And as a result, there was very little of that class that I actually took in. I was just sort of offended by his smell, trying to avoid it wafting across the table. Now that also is a bit of my ego getting in there of things should be perfect for me. Now I'm working on that. Okay, getting back to these smells. So you can ask your unconscious mind, very clever mind that you have here, to just tap in. I'm going to close my eyes to do this, to tap into any experiences that you've had with unpleasant smells that also have unpleasant memories attached to them. There may be certain scents of perfume or aftershave that you associate with people that you'd rather not to have in your life anymore. You can just ask your mind to put a little marker, a little post-it note, a little lamp lighting up on that timeline so that you can just pull up those memories when it's time to let them go. And there may be other smells that you associate with negative memories. I was sometimes locked up in our attic. My sister used to do this to me. Our attic was the top of the house, obviously, and had a really long string cord to the light bulb. And if you were really good, you could pull that hard enough so that it would bounce up and out of the way, and you could lock another person in the attic. We used to do this with regularity. We weren't very nice to each other. But one of the smells that is really evocative to both of us about that experience is the smell of dead flies on the windowsill. For some reason, there would be hundreds of dead flies come the autumn. The cold snap would come, they would all die, and they had a particularly nasty smell, which is now associated with being claustrophobic and locked up. So that's not very pleasant. I'll be clearing that. Thank you very much. There may be other smells that you associate with negative experiences that you've had. And there's no need for you to relive any of these negative experiences. Again, just ask your mind to go, oh yeah, that thing, and put a little marker on it so that we can pull them out. What other kinds of negative smells have you feared? What have you smelled? When have you smelled fear? When have you smelled your own fear? When have you been so scared and you smell that sick sweat that comes, that adrenaline sweat? It's pungent, it's punchy, it's really quite, I'm smelling it in my imagination and my face is going to disgust. So when have you experienced that? When have you been scared of something, created that smell in yourself? Let's pull that memory out because we don't need the association with it. You can just ask your mind to go and find these things. Your mind knows everything, remembers every single thing you've ever eaten, everything you've ever thought, everything you've ever done. So let's just ask it to go back in there and clear those memories. Maybe there are associations with fear. Maybe there are times when you have smelled somebody else's fear and been almost infected by that. And this is actually how a lot of phobias are created, and even physiological responses like allergies and hay fever can sometimes go back to somebody else having a fear, and that affects us. I had a client recently who had an allergy around horse dander. And unfortunately, both of her children had taken up riding. So she was experiencing this over and over again, this reaction. And when we did some work on that, what came up was a memory of her just as a child and her mother being frightened for her being in the vicinity of a horse. Had nothing to do with really anything except the mother's fear. Sometimes fear reactions against, not all, but some reactions against bug bites can be the same thing. If the person, the adult in charge of a baby, goes into a flap because there's a bee or a wasp around, that fear can be enough to trigger an allergic reaction to the sting. It's interesting, isn't it? We're really complex. Or we're really simple. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. So we can ask our mind again to go through and just pull all those memories that are associated with other people's fear and just earmark them, or we're going to pull them out in a moment. And there may be other memories that you can pull out on your own that are really specific to you, maybe some specific emotions that are attached to specific smells. So clearing all of those, what we want to do is to imagine that in your timeline, you're allowing all of those to be elevated a little bit above the surface now. And they're tick, 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 like dominoes, little memories that have got something weird about smell around them. And there's no need for us to hold on to that. We will hold on to the memory of the event if that's important to us, but we don't have to hold on to the emotional content of it. There's no purpose in reliving anything from your past. There's also no purpose in worrying and projecting emotions into the future unless you're deliberately doing that in a way of visualizing, which actually you don't do in the future, you do now. Anyway, little sidestep there. What we want to do, we've got these little things lit up, these little dominoes or post-it notes or little lights, however you want to visualize this. These are things that don't really need to be in your system anymore. So we're going to remove those. And to do that, we're going to go way up high. By going way up high, we get perspective and vision above everything. And from that space way up high, I often close my eyes and I imagine myself floating around on a little cloud up there, wherever that is, way up high. It's where everything is full of peace and love and wisdom and understanding. And from that position, you want to think about what you would like to have instead of these negative connotations or associations with those memories. So it might be peace. It might be neutrality. I think peace is actually stronger than neutrality, so I would probably choose that one. It might be happiness. It might be love. Whatever the emotion is that comes up for you is exactly the right one. And I'm sorry about having my eyes closed through half this video, but I'm processing it in my head and trying to explain it. So whatever the emotion is has a color. So I'm going to go with peace. I want to be at peace with my memories, and for the sake of illustration, we'll go with peace. And I see that as a yellowy, bubbly, glittery color. It's beautiful, kind of like the color of a baby chick. That's a pretty good yellow. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is flood my entire timeline with that beautiful yellowy color of peace. And I'm going to allow that color to wash through me as well, to go in through the top of my head and to flood all the way down through my face, especially through my nasal cavities, through my nostrils, the bridge of my nose, all of those components, because you want to make sure we get it all here. Okay, and I'm going to bring that beautiful yellowy, glittery feeling of peace all the way down through my body, right to the tips of my fingers, right to the tips of my toes. And I want to teach and remind any of the trillions of cells making up this body what it feels like to have peace in every situation now. And just teaching and reminding any of the cells that may have forgotten. That's good. And giving them the opportunity to release anything that is not peace on any layer of identity, any dimension, any universe, any parallel universe, any time, past, present, future, any way of understanding, to allow that peace to just extend all the way through everything. And while we're at it, I'm going to extend that feeling of peace all the way out into the past, into my mother's timeline, into my father's timeline, into their parents, my great-grandparents, all the way back, because human beings have always had associations that are negative to certain smells. And I want to take away that negative emotional quality. Clearly, we need to have a sense of smell that makes us go, ew, dead body, let's move away from that. We're not taking away the physiological, we're taking away the emotional attachment. So I'm going to flood my timeline with that beautiful yellow light of peace that I've created and clear it from all of my ancestors as well. And then clearing all the way out into my future, so that in the future, my experience of smells is going to be very different. Okay, let me run you through this again. So if you want to do this for yourself, you get the memories to pop up in your timeline, whatever they are. You picture, you go up high, up to that place where it's all love and peace and wisdom and understanding. From there, you decide what emotion you would rather have than those negative emotions you were feeling at the time. When you have the word for the emotion, you picture what color it is and whether there's any descriptions of the color. It might be a glitter or an effervescent or maybe a mix of colors, who knows? Everybody's mind is different and every emotion has a different color pattern for every single one of us. Then you're going to flood your timeline with that color, allowing it to get into all of those memories, and you're going to allow that light to flood all the way down through you, teaching and reminding all of your cells what it feels like to be flooded with this particular emotion. Yeah. Then if you want to take the extra step, which why wouldn't you? They're your ancestors, clear your own timeline, clear your parents' timeline, your grandparents' timeline, everybody associated with everybody in your family. Just pull it right out. Good. When that's gone, turn and flood your future timeline with that beautiful emotion of whatever it was that you wanted to bring in. Okay. Now, as an extra step, I ask you to go back to touching your nose, pet it a little bit, stroke it. Let go of whatever associations you may or may not have with your nose. Maybe you think your nose is too wide or too bumpy, or somebody told you your nose was funny looking. Well, they're wrong. Your nose is absolutely perfect for your face. Isn't it glorious? Your nose. So what I want you to do now, though, is to ask your amazing self to look at the blueprint of perfect health that you have, the blueprint that's held in your DNA, and to upgrade it to the highest possible level. Upgrade your nose and all the systems associated with it so that it operates perfectly and so that you smell the most beautiful, pleasant smells to the highest tolerable degree. You're inviting in all of the good smells in the world to become more noticeable to you. So you may be walking through a garden and you'll smell flowers. You may be walking past somebody's house and you'll smell that they're baking cookies. You may walk past somebody and there's just something about them, their laundry detergent or their hairspray or just their own aura smells delicious to you. However you're going to experience this is however you're going to experience it. But by asking your own selves to go and upgrade and get to the perfect level for you, you're going to notice a shift. And as a result, your intuition is going to be sharper because you will be sniffing out more opportunities, more chances for connection. You'll be smelling out people that will be part of your tribe, more of your friendship group. You'll be sniffing out all kinds of things now because you've opened up the passages and cleared that old stuff from your system. There you go. You thought you just had a nose and it breathed in and out. What you didn't realize is that it's actually creating part of what we call reality, because the information that is coming out from you is coming back in through your nose. So I'm wishing you lots and lots of pleasant scents.